Welcome to Equity and Excellence. Thanks for joining us. I'm Doug Reeves. In this video, we're going to talk about the importance of professional learning communities at work, the hallmark of effective collaboration among faculty members. Now, there's a lot of people using the term PLCs or some variation of it. I want to talk about professional learning communities at work the way that Rick Dufour so clearly defined it, not only in Learning by Doing, the book now in its third edition that is the Bible of professional learning communities at work, but also what I've seen in thousands of schools around the country, indeed around the world. Here are some of the hallmarks of effective professional learning communities that lead to equity and excellence. First of all, it is a commitment to collective ownership of all students. You know, when I watch a collaborative team meeting in a school that claims to be organized by a PLC, I see things take one of two radically different turns. In some schools, you'll see, if there's 5 teachers together, the students for all 5 of those classes all listed together with their strengths, with their weaknesses, and the teachers also talking about what their own instructional strengths and weaknesses are. Genuine recognition of their collective responsibility for all students. Whereas in other schools, each one of those 5 may talk in generalities, but they hold their own data close to the vest as if it were some sort of state secret. Collective ownership requires transparency. We share our successes, we also share our struggles, knowing that we share collective responsibility to help all students. The next core characteristic of professional learning communities at work is a focus on the 4 questions. You know what they are probably. What do we want students to learn? How do we know if they've learned it? What do we do if they don't? What do we do if they already have? I use a shorthand for these 4 questions that'll make it easy for you to track them. That is learning, assessment, intervention, and extension. That's learning, assessment, intervention, and extension. And to the leaders watching this video, let me request you don't need minutes from these meetings. What you need is a 4-line email, just letting you know what did we talk about in terms of learning, assessment, intervention, and extension. And if the answer is we didn't get around to that, that's really good data for you to have. Because what I'm noticing around the country, indeed around the world, is the following. Everybody likes to talk about lesson plans. Everybody likes to talk about units. So what do we want students to learn dominates the discussion. Fewer people talk about common formative assessments because that would mean that we all have to agree on what's really most important and how we assess it. Even fewer talk about intervention. What are we going to do if students don't learn it? And even fewer, particularly in high poverty schools, talk about what do we do if they already have? How do we enrich and extend the learning of students? And if you really had a great professional learning community, all 4 of those items, learning, assessment, intervention, and extension, would be getting equal airtime, track it. I'll bet that you find out that fewer minutes are devoted toward intervention and extension than to unit planning, learning, and assessment. Next, collaboration is a professional duty. It's not something that we ask people to volunteer for. It is part of our professional obligation as educators and leaders. Collaboration, that is sharing my best practices and asking for help when I need other colleagues to share their best practices, is an obligation. It is not a frill. It's not something that we volunteer for. It's not a personal preference. It's just like hygiene. We don't ask for people to volunteer for collaboration any more than we ask crosswalk safety guards to volunteer for whether or not they let kids cross the street in a safe manner. Friends, what you and I do as leaders and as teachers is a safety issue, and we have to take it just as seriously as we would crosswalk safety, cafeteria safety, hallway safety, or anything else. It's simply not a choice. Collaboration is required as part of our professional environment. And finally, we have to understand that teaching and leadership are learning professions. We do not arrive, no matter how much experience we have, with everything all settled, with only wisdom to impart but none to receive. I watched a great collaborative team meeting in a school organized as a professional learning community last April. The teacher leading the discussion was of a certain age. I didn't guess what, but I learned later that as she was not only sharing her exit tickets, sharing what students had learned, and asking her colleagues for feedback on how to get better, that it was the end of her 39th year in teaching. This was April. She was retiring in May. And she was going to make the last 30 days of a 39-year career her best effort. I find that so inspiring because that's the sort of thing that all of us must follow. It is the model of teaching and leadership as a learning profession and not assuming after 5, 10, or certainly 20 years that we have it all figured out. If you want to have a school that is marked by equity and excellence, your commitment to professional learning communities at work is the way to do it.